Hello Idle Hero fans, thank you for joining me today as I'm going to be doing a quick video about the state of the meta for the private server. Since everything is kind of new, the heroes that are particularly strong are a little different from the ones that are strong on the official server. Namely being that heroes like Thale, for example. Thale 5-star especially is actually really strong right now because heroes aren't really quick enough to just kill her in one shot like they are when they get to, say, 7 or 8 stars. So her heals become very annoying if you can't take her out quickly, and that's currently what's happening at this point in the game. So if you can actually land a Thale, it's very effective. Now, why is the sound not working? Okay, there we go. But yeah, Thale is a very strong hero right now. So if you can get her, I definitely would, especially if you find her in the shop, because you can, every now and then in the marketplace, you can find heroes and you can buy them for like 1,500 gold. I would definitely buy her for 1,500 gold. I don't know if I'd spend 500 gems. I probably wouldn't do that, but I would spend 1,500 gold to get her. Aside from that, we're still at a point where tanks are kind of effective. So even heroes like Dominator are still pretty good in the first slot because they last for a long time and do a decent amount of damage. Let's just see if I can do up like a fight here. This is probably not the best to do a campaign. See if I can find a pretty good PvP fight that would demonstrate my point. Okay, let's go with this one. This might be a little rough because they have the fire faction, and fire faction heroes are pretty strong. But let's just try it out just to see. And actually I can just skip this, so I don't actually need to watch any of this. So we did win, but the main point is that if you look at the damage charts, Dominator is still doing about 9,000 damage, whereas most of my units are doing like 14,000, 12,000, 13,000, and 14,000, but he's actually keeping up pretty good, except for Bleaker. Bleaker went off there because he's my 5-star blue hero, so he's super effective against these guys, so he's obviously doing the most damage, but Dominator's actually still keeping up okay considering that he's just a big HP wall. So like early in the game like this, HP walls are actually pretty good. So him and people like Dragon Slayer, very effective heroes at this point. And that kind of brings me to the main point of this video, is that I'd like to say if you're going to focus your profit orbs on a certain faction, there's pretty much two good choices at this point in the game, in my opinion. You can go for Forest, because Forest has some good heroes. Gru is obviously the best tank in the game. Faceless is an okay hero. Even at this point, she's still pretty strong. Demon Hunter is amazing. Rosa is still amazing. Thale is awesome. Edga's okay. And the Grey-Eyed even is okay. And Malisa as well is still pretty good. So you have a decent amount of good heroes that you can get from Forest. And that's what you really want to worry about when you're starting a new account where you can't buy a lot of gems, is that you want to kind of gamble as effectively as possible. And if you throw your dice at the Forest faction, there are a lot of decent heroes that you can hit. Now, the only other thing I would consider is the Fortress faction. And while the Fortress faction might not have as many like medium to high tier heroes, they definitely have the better like top tier heroes. So you're looking at like Ice Blink, of course, is amazing. Mickey is really good in PvP. Flame Strike, it goes without saying, she's a god. And Orbs is actually probably significantly better right now than he will be at any other point in the game, because as I said before about Thale, healers right now are at a premium. So having a 5-star healer is even better. And even stuff like Honor Guard, who of course is going to fall off later, Honor Guard is still very strong right now because he's just a HP wall that also has a stun, and having a stun at this point in the game is extremely important. And OD01 is also okay. Emily actually as well. It's a pretty good toss-up between Fortress and Forest, funnily enough. Their names sound pretty similar. But yeah, even Emily is pretty strong. So if you're going to pick which faction you want, I would go with one of those two. I would specifically avoid the Death faction because there's just not as much power here. You're pretty much only looking to get Walter or Aiden. Those are pretty much the only two really good heroes that you'd want from this faction, with Lutz kind of being like a distant third, but he's still okay. But it's hard to invest into that. Field is not good. Dominator, as I said, he's okay, but you can get better or equal versions of him in Honor Guard or Dragon Slayer from Fortress and Forest, so it's not really much purpose to go with that. Abyss is okay, but I still feel like the other two have better overall champions, because of course Queen is good, Margaret is good, Balrog is good, Fat Moo and Gusta are not. Karim is okay, Kareem is okay, sorry. Dentalion is okay, but the other three are not so much. So I think that like Abyss has good heroes, but just not as many as the Force or Fortress. So if you had to pick which faction you want to spend your Prophet Orbs on, I'd go with one of those two. I feel like Forest is probably the easier choice. Like you're more likely to get respectable heroes from Forest for the immediate future, but I feel Fortress is the best. Now I feel like I'm gonna mix up those names if I keep saying them like that, so I might just go to the blue and green faction so that I don't get them confused. But yeah, blue has a lower chance to get premium heroes, but the heroes are better, whereas the green faction has a higher chance to get good heroes, but the heroes aren't quite as good late game. Now, of course, if you run Forest and you just happen to get Demon Hunter, Rosa, and let's just say Demon Hunter, Rosa, and Gru, of course, you're killing it, you're doing great, but the odds of that just don't seem as likely. So it's a toss-up. Ultimately, I feel like it might come down to just personal opinion. If you picked green versus blue, you couldn't really be faulted for it. I definitely would not go with the dark and light faction though, because it's just there's so much lesser chance of getting good hero. Dark Anthrandal is still amazing, of course, but just the odds of getting her versus just getting 100 Logans is just so high. Like you're not going to get her more than likely. Same with light. I think they're merged anyway in the Prophet tree. Yeah, light and dark are merged, so it's still just you're gonna get a lot of these like 4-star heroes and 4-star shards and 5-star shards instead of getting the actually good heroes. But I will say right now, Sleepless is actually in a really good spot because I think he might be one of the best just HP walls in the game. And at this point, HP walls are pretty powerful, so getting him is actually not bad, but I would not invest my orbs into the light and dark faction. So just let me know what you guys think. I might try to come up with a little bit more information on some of these factions, maybe some underrated heroes for this point in time. Like I said, I feel Thale is probably the most underrated hero right now. Of course, she will fall off in the future, but even if you get her to 5-star now, you can always use her for a fusion later, so it's not like it's really wasted if you put time into her right now. So yeah, she's a very strong hero, very underrated, and just let me know if you guys think there are any other underrated heroes I should talk about. Thank you very much, guys, and have a good night.